Okay. Right. So welcome everyone to the annual general meeting for the UK Individual Shareholder Society, known as ShareSoc, today on the 18th of September 2024. I'm delighted to be joining you for my first AGM as the chair following my appointment this year. I, along with my fellow directors, have enjoyed meeting some of you in the room before we actually started, and we hope to meet some of you afterwards if you can stay for refreshments and/or are attending the seminar a little bit later. On the platform, we've got Gemma Arnold, Mike Dennis, Mark Bentley, Mark Northway, Amit Vedar, and of course myself. And then also in the front room, we've also got some other directors. Bazina Michalowska, who is one of our new directors that has been appointed this year. Vijay Tahani. And online, I think we've got Elliot Hughes as well, and hopefully Ram. So you've got a number of directors that are in the room that are very happy to sit and talk with you afterwards as well. So today we'll include a review of the year from myself and the chairs of each of the committees, followed by the announcement of this year's recipient of the Stan Grierson Award. This will be followed by Q&A and then voting on the resolutions. The key areas raised from our performance in 2023 were circulated in the chair's report. But the key highlights that were included in that were ShareSoc's first hybrid AGM. Hybrid AGMs are an important development for which we have been lobbying very hard on. And I'm delighted that ShareSoc is hosting its first hybrid AGM today, including members both in person and online. Also, these are really exciting times politically, economically, and socially. And ShareSoc wants to keep ahead of the curve in adapting our propositions and focus to ensure your voice is heard. I'm pleased to report another solid year of progress, which we have refreshed the board and updated our plans to support you as members. Our total membership increased by 3% in 2023 to 9,431, while paying membership decreased by 6% to 1,233. It's a similar pattern as the previous year and an area of focus that the board has really been concentrating on for 24 and 25. The other thing that we've implemented since I've joined is we've actively sought members' views as to how we can continue to shape our products and our services. And we thank everyone who's taken time to contribute by completing the recent survey. Before I pass across to invite the chairs of the relevant committees, I also want to say a big thank you to Lord Lee, who's been a big supporter and also helped me on my induction with ShareSoc. So thank you very much for coming along today. So I'm now going to invite Mark Northway, who will cover policy, campaigns and representation.
Thank you very much. So policy committee, there's a slide, I think. Anticipation slide. Two parts to what we do on the policy side. The first is really watching what's going on in markets with government, with regulation, try and ensure that the landscape within which individual investors operate is fair, that their interests are taken into account. In decisions and to be a voice effectively for individual investors. This involves liaison with various bodies, typically FRC, FCA, London Stock Exchange, Department for Business and Trade, Treasury, and broader than that. A classic example is the government's digitisation task force, which is being led by Sir Douglas Flint, and which is looking at
the dematerialization of shares and the impact that that has on market structures and on investors. And we, along with AXA and ShareAction, have been lobbying very hard to ensure that that task force adheres to its terms of reference. The terms of reference are excellent. They come out of the Mark Austin review. They are very shareholder friendly in terms of supporting shareholders' rights, ensuring that those investors who hold certificated paper at the moment are able to retain the rights that they currently have, whichever route the dematerialization process goes down, but also that those who hold them in nominee format receive an improvement in their ability to exercise shareholders' rights, so that we have a level playing field for the first time in many years. That process, we've had the interim review in March, I think, and we are now currently awaiting the final review. We met today with Sir Douglas and with Mark Austin, with AXA, ShareSoc and ShareAction, and it was very clear that our message was heard. I wasn't so convinced last time we met that was the case. Today it was very definitely the case that it was heard. Heard doesn't mean to say that it's going to be acted upon, but we are confident at least that the requirements of all three of us in terms of a minimum service level for post dematerialization intermediated shareholding will be achieved. Away from that, we respond to multiple consultations, generally from the bodies that I've spoken about above. This year, there was a slightly different angle, because one of those consultations was the Labour Party review of financial services, where we had the opportunity to get our view of what the landscape should look like in front of the Labour Party before they won the election. And that provided a very useful paper, which you'll find on the website, which we're using as a sort of guidance for policy writ large. We try to get in front of the press and ensure that the press recognises us as the voice of individual shareholders. We obviously have a relatively small number of direct members, but we hold ourselves out as having a mandate to represent individual investors writ large. The acceptance of that mandate is very much a question of confidence, and that's a function of whether or not we behave in a manner and with the gravitas that effectively persuades people that we do speak for the individual investor. And I think at the moment that is the case with both press and with government bodies and regulator. And then slightly offbeat from a policy perspective, we do put out voting guidance reports for the FTSE 30, which take quite a lot of work and effort, but hopefully they assist people in the voting process, and they provide a little bit of guidance or stimulation to get involved. The other side of what we do is campaigns, where we see something going on, generally at a company level or potentially at a government body level, and where we make a noise about it. The overarching campaign that we've had running for many years is the shareholder rights campaign. Flint Review is part of that. But the other element I think that's raised its head in the last year or so has been digital AGMs. We are very keen to ensure that the benefits of digitalization are enjoyed by investors, but without loss of rights. And you'll be aware that we signed the Marks and Spencer Share Your Voice campaign last year. There was a gap between ourselves and Marks and Spencer's around purely digital AGMs, and we made it very clear that that is not something we support. And we have held out very strongly this year for digital AGMs. Mike, I think, has some figures for hybrid AGMs. Mike, I think, has some figures on the outcomes this year, but from memory, there's only been one AGM. Mike, can you remind me?
Out of the FTSE 350, there's only one fully digital AGM so far this year, and so 99% of all AGMs for the FTSE 350 have been either hybrid or in person.
Thank you. Woodford campaign. Many of you will be aware of the Woodford campaign. We supported the Lead A legal claim, which was looking to get redress from Linked Financial Services Limited on behalf of investors in the Woodford Equity Income Fund. That legal process was overtaken by a scheme of arrangement which was endorsed by the FCA. Realistically, it should be anyone's expectation that when you engage in a legal process, there is a very good chance that the outcome will be a settlement, and a scheme of arrangement is a settlement. In this case, it's one that's regulatory endorsed, but it's a settlement nevertheless. So that redress, we would like to think, is largely down to the pressure that was put by the law firms and by ShareSoc on the regulator and to do something for the investors in Woodford. It's not sufficient in our view. There is a potential further bucket of cash from our perspective, which involves going after Woodford Investment Management. Woodford Investment Management is not flush with cash, so any restitution order against that company would end up as a claim on the FSCS, but we think it's correct that that claim should take place to at least increase the amount of redress up to the figure that the FCA believes is the harm that was done to investors. We query that figure. We think the harm was larger than that, but to all intents and purposes, that's a realistic target. Away from that, there is a further lawsuit from RGL, or rather from Wallace Solicitors, funded by RGL. RGL has book running on it, which looks at Hargreaves Lansdown and asks the question as to whether or not Hargreaves Lansdown by holding Woodford Equity Investment Fund on its Wealth 50 list, whether or not they effectively promoted that, and whether or not they promoted it for longer than they effectively should have done. We've taken a long, hard look at that. We think that for investors who held Woodford through Hargreaves, there is for at least most of those investors, there is a good case for being involved in that lawsuit. There's always a prisoner's dilemma with lawsuits. You can get involved. You can find that there's a settlement. That settlement benefits people who were involved and people who weren't involved in the claim. And and those who were involved in the legal claim will obviously have a contract with the lawyers that part of the settlement goes to the lawyers. So there's a degree of subtlety around it, but nevertheless, we think that for most people, it's that claim should be of interest. Hartley Pensions, I'm going to pass over to Mark to just give a couple of words on Hartley Pensions and Home REIT, if I may.
Yes, we've put quite a bit of work over the last year into the Hartley Pensions case. For those of you that weren't familiar with it, this was a quite impactful case. Hartley was a firm that administered SIPs and small pension schemes, SASSs. It had about 16,000 clients with SIPs. It caused issues with the FCA, which resulted in it going into administration. That was in July 2022. And we got asked to intervene by a ShareSoc member at the beginning of last year. At that time and through the whole of 2023, we were told via the administrators and directly that the FSCS weren't going to cover the costs of the administration, which in turn meant that the SIP holders themselves would be liable for the administration costs, which we felt were grossly inflated anyway, and from figures that I saw could have resulted in some members having to pay up to £20,000 out of their SIPs to cover the costs of administration. Early this year, fortunately, after a lot of pressure from us and law firms that got involved in the case, the FSCS relented and agreed to cover the costs. So finally, the process is moving forward. but people's SIPs have essentially been locked up for over 2 years now, and we're still working to tie up the loose ends on that. But the significance of this case was that I feel it sets a precedent for future similar cases. So, and there are still further discussions with the FCA to be held, but we want to make sure that there aren't these questions about FSCS compensation, which is what held the whole thing up for so long and resulted in a massive increase in the costs that would otherwise have been payable, because the administrators called on a lot of legal costs to try and force the settlement of clients paying those costs.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay.
We're getting a hurry up sign, so I think home read is people will members will be broadly aware of the scandal that's going on there in terms of the real estate investment trust owning a load of properties at questionable prices bought through questionable routes, and the suggestion that there may have been wrongdoing, and there is a potential legal case pointed at that from Harkus Barker. We're really in a watching brief. There's a degree of potential circularity. We're not fans of legal processes that attack the shareholders' own funds. We like to see third parties involved. With in the case of Woodford, there was Link Financial Services, the authorised corporate director. In the case of Home REIT, potentially there is Alvarium, or what was Alvarium, which is the external manager. So it may have some validity, but there is at least a risk of the shareholders suing themselves through that process, which is not something we like to see. St James's Place, everyone will be aware of. There's a suggestion of overcharging. We wouldn't really get involved in any kind of legal claim there. What we would get involved in is signposting for investors the options that we think are available to them. And investment trust disclosures, you will have seen a paper running through through Parliament at the moment, through the House of Lords at the moment, which is talking about trying to remove some of the MiFID II cost disclosures from investment trusts because of the damage that it is doing to pricing in that market. And with that, I'm going to pass back to Heather.
Okay, thank you very much, Mark. And I hope that just shares with you how we're continuing to represent individual investors and lobby and campaign on your behalf to improve shareholder rights. So I'm going to invite Gemma Arnold to talk through the activities update for Signet. And there's a lot been happening in that area as well.
Sorry.
Okay.
No trips. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gemma Arnold, and I'm the Signet Director on the ShareSoc board. What is Signet? For anyone who isn't yet a Signet member, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Signet. Signet's main goal is to help our members make money. We achieve this through regular, informal group meetings with other interested investors. Each group can have up to 20 members and is organised by a convener. He or she will typically set the agenda for each meeting. Some groups also have a chairperson who runs the meeting. Groups can meet in person or virtually, while some groups take a hybrid approach. Meetings can be midweek or on the weekends, during the day or in the evening. Signet groups can be nationwide virtual groups, specialist groups, e.g. income groups, US investor group, or the options trading group, and they can also be locality groups, so that meet in person in specific locations across the UK. So there's a time and a format to suit everyone. Anyone interested in joining a group can access on the Signet website a complete list of all the groups currently offered and a map with further information on the exact location of all the locality groups. Leadership. I'm presenting to you today because I joined the ShareSoc board as a non-executive director in February 2023. In May 2023, Ray Williams stepped down from the board after his second appointment as Signet Director. We are very grateful to Ray for his dedication in leading Signet and his hard work as Signet Director, initially from September 2019 to July 2021, and more recently from April 2022 to May 2023. Ray worked so hard that 2 people were required to take over his role. In May 2023, I became the Signet Director representing Signet on the ShareSoc board in a non-executive role. And Bill Faulkner-Corbett became head of Signet in the executive role, running Signet, coordinating and appointing conveners, and frankly, performing the majority of Ray's old role. Value add. In addition to the benefit of meeting monthly with like-minded investors in an open and welcoming environment, one of the key value adds to Signet membership is the Signet newsletter, which is emailed monthly to members and is edited brilliantly by Terry Nolden. Terry and Bill have worked hard to improve and enhance the content. Thank you. The Signet Challenge, which is reported on in the newsletter, is a competition that all groups are encouraged to enter, and more than ever before have entered this year's competition. Bill has steered the focus towards long-term investing performance, as opposed to a hot stock picking competition. We are very grateful to Julian Hermele, who runs the SharePad portfolios that track the challenge for us. Bill has also introduced Signet groups for beginner and intermediate investors. 8 meetings are held over a period of 9 months. The idea being that members graduate from the beginner group to the intermediate group. Some of the participants have been in their 20s, which is helping to broaden the Signet member age profile. The second cohort of both the beginner and intermediate groups will start in October, and I'm pleased to say they're both full. Company visits have been reintroduced post-COVID. A special thank you to Steve Lowe, David Johnston, and Bill, who have organised the visits so far. Following the reintroduction of after meetings to ShareSoc seminars or webinars, we have introduced follow-up meetings to discuss a company which has given a recent presentation on either Investor Meets Company or PI World. These are held 2 weeks after the original company presentation, so that members who may have initially missed the presentation in real time can still participate. We are always happy to receive recommendations from Signet members on company presentations that you would like us to set up a follow-up event for. And follow-up meetings are open to all our members, so Signet members, combined members, ShareSoc members, and associate members. Bill also holds monthly information meetings, often on a Tuesday around 6:30 to 7 p.m, although times do vary. The first type of monthly meetings are called an introduction to Signet, targeted at people who haven't joined Signet yet. This is listed on the weekly events email sent to everyone who is opted into events on their communication preferences and is also promoted on social media. The second type of meetings are called Making the Most of Your Signet Membership, targeted at current Signet members who aren't yet in a group or who would perhaps like to join a second group. This is also listed on the weekly events email, and a targeted email is sent to members who are on a wait list or who haven't joined a group yet. Membership. 2023 was a great year for Signet. Bill Faulkner-Corbett drove 22% growth in the total members, and 3 new Signet groups were created. In the past 12 months from today, Bill has continued to add 1 new Signet group per month, and Signet membership has grown on average by 10 people per month, an annual growth rate of just under 40%. An interesting point to note is that due to the flexibility of the offering of our, I think I mentioned on this earlier, due to the flexibility of the offering, an increasing number of members are joining more than 1 group. So you can be in a virtual group, a location group, and a specific group. Pleasingly, exactly half the new members are combined Signet and ShareSoc members. So actually, converting ShareSoc members to Signet, becoming Signet members has been a great focus for us. 2024 goals. Our aims for the next 12 months are to maintain the impressive growth in member numbers at 10 people per month and to continue adding at least one new group every month. We welcome suggestions for new groups, e.g. in a particular geographical location, or perhaps you're interested in a specific topic. We would also welcome any members who would like to start a group or become a convener to please make contact with Bill to discuss your suggestions. I hope that my report today has reinforced your belief that Signet membership helps us all to achieve better investment decisions. As I said at the start, Signet's main goal is to help our members to make money, and we hope that many more ShareSoc only members will join us to take advantage of this opportunity.
Thank you, Gemma. We mentioned about Ray Williams, just to reinforce, Paul de Grucci, Andy Briscoe and Cliff Waite did step down from the board in 2023. And we're very grateful to those directors and wish them all the best for the future. I've already mentioned all of the new board members. There are 11 of us now, and we're all working together to evolve the strategy accordingly. But it is voluntary, and I just want to say a personal thank you to everyone that is working so hard to make it such a successful organisation. And my final thank you is also to Amanda and her team, who actually end up doing all of the work that we ask them to do, but everyone has really been supportive. So I did want to take the opportunity to say thank you as well. I'm going to pass over to you now, Amit.
Thank you. I'm Amit Vadara. I've been a director for just over 5 years now. Recently, I took over the chair of the Education Committee. Post Investing Basics, which had taken up an enormous amount of resource, we took our foot off the gas to some degree as we focused on doing other things and bringing the organisation forward in other areas. So this year, we reconstituted with the aid of new directors in April. We then went around the houses reviewing what we had done and hadn't done, what lessons we could learn following the Investing Basics launch, what information was out there, what information isn't out there, what was changing in terms of patterns of consumption of that and who it was directed towards, and things like that. So we looked at it in the round and we decided, okay, where are we going to go taking that forward? Now, we haven't decided finally all the aspects of where we will take education forward, and that continues to evolve. But meanwhile, we continue to promote Investing Basics content in lots of different avenues. We are continually lobbying government, both the past government and the current government, regarding financial education and the complete lack of in schools and so. And we are now working on things like the Investor Academy itself, reviewing content that has been there for quite a while, rewriting it, filling gaps, making it more holistic, but also saying what other forms of content is there. It's predominantly written content, with the exception of Investing Basics. Our goal is to make it a one-stop hub for financial education, particularly investor education, that any party can use at no cost. I think that's what Lisa said.
Thank you very much, Amit. So finally, I'm going to invite Mike Dennis to come up, and he's going to provide an update on events and also a quick update as well about the finances.
Thank you, Heather. Many of you know me already because you come to many of our events, and it's nice to see you all again. And I've been around too long, so a recognisable face, I'm sure. Just a quick update, really, on the events from 2023. We did, as you can see on the numbers charts there, those many webinars, seminars, company visits, masterclasses, total member attendance and so on. It was up on the previous year, but bear in mind we were coming out of COVID in 22. That would not be a surprise, I guess. The big challenge for us has always been can we do more seminars? Because we know the feedback that we get from our member surveys is often that many of you are really enthusiastic about face-to-face. Webinar only gets you so far. You just don't get the same touch and feel. And we appreciate that. The challenge at the moment is a lot of companies see webinars as very convenient and seminars as inconvenient for obvious reasons. But we've got one this evening, and we hope many of you in the room will come along to that. But it's one of few this year, far fewer than we were hoping to put on. We'd really like to get back to the sort of one a month level in London, and seminars in Birmingham and Manchester as well. So that's still a challenge. You know, if you are going tonight, you know, do bend the ear of the chief execs of the three presenting companies, say how much you enjoyed it and how much better it is to see people in the flesh and have the opportunity to talk to them over a glass of wine later, rather than just get a cut off on the webinar and, you know, always hoping your question's going to be typed in and listened to and read and so on. So I think that would help us tremendously. So that's what we're going to be working on this year to try and improve as well. And we also recognize, you know, the webinar format, you know, it's no secret to many of you who are interested in looking at watching companies present, that there is a big beast in the market when it comes to webinars. I'm not allowed to mention their name, but they've hoovered up a hell of a lot of the market, and they've got a very good formula. We use their input into these Signet meetings that Bill alluded to. Oh, sorry, Gemma alluded to earlier, that it's very useful for us to talk about those afterwards and pick over them at the bones and so on. You know, so we are going to have to look at strengths and play to the strengths that we've got by trying to focus on other types of activities like visits, like seminars, like the more face-to-face, touchy-feely stuff, and other ideas that we've got that we hope to be bringing to you over the coming year. But one of the things that we are still doing in the virtual format is we're trialing something next week, I think it is, Pavlina, with what we're calling a discovery series, because we know there's a whole lot of speculative companies at the smaller end of the market that we generally don't invite along to produce a 1-hour webinar for us, because we know they're not going to get the audience. It's going to be a waste of their time. But if we lump a few of these together and we've got sufficient interest in a webinar format, then it's worth their while making the effort to come along to those. And we'll keep them short and sweet. You know, they haven't got enough to talk about for 1 hour, and they're not going to get enough questions. So we chop it down, keep it light, and at least you get a very quick feel for a company and decide if you want to evaluate them any further. So that's what we're calling the Discovery Series. And we hope that you will see more of that in the near future. So keep an eye out for that. That was all I wanted to say on events. If you've got questions, please send them to us or raise your hand later. In terms of finances, 23 turnover was around 108,000, which is down on the previous year, in 2022. Main reason for that being mostly to do with income that was being generated through the Woodford campaign primarily. Details are in the accounts, but we kind of knew that was coming. We've used some of the surplus that actually generated, as you'll see going forward, and I'll mention that in a minute. The cost of sales was down in 2023, so we did quite well at keeping that under control in terms of some of the events we were running and so on and so forth. So that was down from 22. The administrative costs went the other direction, primarily because we chose explicitly to take on board particularly Amanda as the general manager, because we wanted to get more focus on growth. And we knew that that was going to be a cash burn for a while. So we knowingly decided to burn some of our surpluses, and we're still kind of doing that, basically. So our reserves, you will notice, have dropped year on year. So reserves stood at 71,000 at the year end, whereas there were 99,000 at the end of 22. And we're still busy sort of burning through some of that cash in a modest way and a carefully metered way as we go through this year in order to generate further growth. And just to mention, we had about 3 staff members in 2023 on average, which was one up on the previous year. And as I said, the primary cause of that was Amanda joining us in the team, and we're very pleased to have her because she's been handling an awful lot of stuff in the last 12 months. And we still use a lot of contract staff. Sam at the back here, who's doing the hybrid stuff today and working all the levers in the background. He's one of our key contractors and does a lot of social media marketing for us as well. So that gives you an example of the kind of things we're doing.
So, before I move to questions and answers, I've got a really fantastic thing to do now, which is to award the Stan Grierson Award for either a member or a volunteer who's made an outstanding contribution to ShareSoc's progress. It was created in the memory of Stan Grierson, who was a founding member of ShareSoc and its second chairman. Stan passed away in 2016, shortly after retiring from the chair, and while still a very active member of the board. I'm very pleased to announce that this year's winner of the Stan Grierson Award is Bill Faulkner Corbett. Oh. I don't think I need to say any more because I think Gemma summed it up brilliantly about what you've done for us. I just want to say a big thank you.
Thank you. Can you do it in front of the camera without marking the bell?
Thank you.
Well done, Bill. Not quite the Oscars.
Who's going to the polishing?
So we're now going to move to members' questions. Members have been able to submit questions in advance of the AGM, as well as submitting questions online and in person today at the AGM. So if you're attending online, please submit your question using the question and answer box. And if you're here in person, can you please raise your hand? To be fair, we're going to try and make sure that we share around the questions so that people do get a chance to raise anything that they wish to do so. And if any questions are outstanding at the end of the time, then we'll publish the questions and the responses. So have we got any questions online? Okay. So Stephen London says, do we have any plans to update any of the masterclass series? So masterclass, do we have any plans to update the masterclass series?
Yes, good question. We recognise that I am. Oh, thank you. No, good question. We do recognise we haven't done as many masterclasses as we would intend to every year for various problems with resource availability and so on. We've just been talking about that in our planning meeting this morning, and we do thoroughly intend to reinstigate those in full for next year because we recognise that full members in particular appreciate those. So we have a whole list of ideas for topics. But if you have a particularly burning issue you'd like to hear it as a topic for a masterclass, do email us about it and we'll add it to the list, and we will implement a minimum of 6 next year is the plan. So we will be doing that.
Are there any that people want to ask a question?
Thank you very much indeed. My name is Peter Collier from Croydon. This is my first visit. And yes, I was very much involved a few years ago with the Royal Bank of Scotland fiasco, where a certain CEO issued a brochure saying this, that, and the other was happening, where in time it proved it was totally untrue.
Right.
And that caused me and a lot of shareholders to buy shares in Royal Bank of Scotland, which, for a better word, went that way. And what happened then afterwards, there was so-called legal cases brought against Royal Bank of Scotland to try and get some of the money back for us shareholders. It was a long battle. At the end of the day, as far as I could work out, I got no more money out from it than what I actually paid in for expenses, which drew me to the conclusion that the whole thing was a complete waste of time. Now, I don't know whether the ShareSoc Society have picked up the Royal Bank of Scotland, shall we say, fiasco. If they did, have they got any paperwork on it that I can have just briefly for my own benefit to see exactly what you try to do and what you succeeded in doing?
So the obvious rights not a ShareSoc campaign.
Sorry, the RBS rights issue was not a ShareSoc campaign. There was one of the ShareSoc directors who was involved in that rights issue, and he might be a suitable person for you to talk to about what happened. But broadly, there was a no-win, no-fee legal case. The waterfall of that legal case repaid the funder and the legal expenses before it went to you. One of the processes that we go through when we're reviewing a legal claim is to say, well, what does the waterfall look like, and is it the case that there's going to be a favouring of the funder and the lawyer over the investor? And if there is, it's a red flag for us. So it would not have passed muster, at least now, with the ShareSoc due diligence process over legal cases, but it wasn't one that ShareSoc supported.
Because it did seem to me at the time, when at the end of the day, the lawyers did very nicely out of it, but as shareholders...
There was a recovery, and the funder made a profit, and the lawyers were paid.
And they did very nicely, but as shareholders who expected to get what you call full compensation back, it's like the post office. They're battling to get their full compensation. I think I only got part of my compensation, but of course it's all now dead and buried. But I thought I'd ask that question here. It's my first time visit.
And no, it's a very good question. And I would say that is one of the things that you are looking to ShareSoc to do. Boz, our new director, is from Lee Day, has a great deal of knowledge of these things. One of the things you're looking for us to do is to review what's going on. Say, does this make any sense in terms of circularity? Does it make any sense in the way that it's set up? Does it make any sense in terms of costs? And to let you know what we think. You then obviously have to make your own decision as to whether you go into a claim or not. But we view it as being our responsibility to review and let you know what we think. And there's one potential that's raised its head in the last couple of days as well, where we'll go through the same process. And we may come out with here's the facts, make up your own mind. We may say we like this, but still make up your own mind. But you are looking to us to at least give you an indication of whether or not something looks sensible.
Thanks for your answer.
Pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you. I've got a question from Danny Wallace asking about your statement claims that your principal activity is a promotion of the interests of individual investors across the UK. However, despite protests from your membership base, you endorsed, promoted and celebrated the Share Your Voice campaign, which I think is something that you mentioned a bit earlier, Mark. Which could have pushed for the law to be changed to allow companies to choose digital-only AGMs, clearly against the best interest of investors. M&S held their AGM in 2023 digital-only. There was a very flattering report of M&S digital-only AGM written and loaded onto your website. It was then promoted more than once on your weekly wrap-up. You also held your AGM digital only. I think that we've done some feedback about how we've actually supported the hybrid positioning. You are correct that we did support the Share Your Voice campaign, with the exception of their digital only preference. We've clarified our position now as preferring and supporting hybrid AGMs. And that's one reason why I was very insistent when I took over as chair that we did do a hybrid AGM, because you want to follow the practice that you're telling other people to do so. And we feel that the decision to attend virtually or in person should lie with the shareholder and not the company. So that's the position that we do now reinforce on the discussion about hybrids. I think also a bit earlier we had the discussion about how many are now doing hybrid as opposed to digital only. And we will keep reinforcing that message. Anyone else got any other questions?
After our friend over here.
Lord Lee?
Yes, thank you, Heather. I mean, I just wondered whether ShareSoc has any collective view on the whole question of non-executive directors' shareholdings, which is something that I've started to campaign on, because I'm frankly appalled at the low level or near zero level, often of non-executive director shareholdings of the companies where they're on the board. And these days, non-executive directors earn quite a good salary, probably between 50,000 and 100,000, many small companies. And I think it's totally unacceptable that they're there not with any shareholding at all. My view actually is that, and I put this on record, that by year 2, non-executive directors should have roughly the equivalent of 25% of their salary back in shares in the particular company where they're on the board. And I'm not suggesting that there should be anything statutory at all, but I would hope that individual members of ShareSoc, when they attend AGMs, would actually voice an opinion if they broadly support my view. And I'd be interested to know whether ShareSoc have any collective view or have ever thought about this issue.
Yes.
Yes, it's not an issue that we've discussed so far in the policy committee or board, but I think it's a very good suggestion of yours, and we certainly feel that NEDs should be aligned with the shareholders that they're supposed to be representing. So we'll certainly look at supporting that, and as you say, suggesting to our members that it might be something they should raise when they attend AGMs. Thank you, John.
Skin in the game for the whole board is something that we do look at in remuneration reports. I think it's fair to say that our output of remuneration reports has been fairly limited of late. Something we want to re-increase, and we've depended fairly heavily on Cliff Waite to do those. So perhaps we should be pushing him to do it further. But it's definitely something that he looks at on the way through.
Did you put your hand up? Yeah, I'll just do this one and then, okay. So I've got a question from David Saunders about explaining the meaning and purpose of company campaigns at a cost of 16,822 in the profit and loss account. Yeah, okay, thank you. Then that is a big difference, isn't it? So that's but the meaning and purpose of them, has anyone?
Well, they're from the slide. So it's the revenue we've already stated is associated with
the meaning and purpose. I think I've run through in the policy slide. it is those company campaigns which will cost us resource, will cost us money, although we try to limit the amount of money that we spend on them. And in this particular case, there was revenue associated with it, and it was the Woodford Equity Investment Fund. And I should, whilst I'm on the policy thing, just mention the policy committee is made up of ShareSoc directors, including Mark, myself, including Elliot, including Bosnow, but we also benefit from volunteer input from Peter Parry, from Cliff Waite, and from Paul Greenwood. So I should thank them as well.
Share prices seem to be moving ahead of announcements. And in these increasingly volatile markets, it strikes me there's a lot more of that going on. Do you as a board have a view on this? Is this something that you can affect so that we, as individual private investors, can have more of a level playing field in this respect?
So yes, it's something that we are aware of and that we do look out for. Paul de Gruchy, ex-director in particular, is very hot on that topic. When we spot something that we don't like, we try and do a high-level analysis as to whether or not there is cause for concern. Where there is, we make a report to the regulator. It then disappears into a black hole and goes nowhere, unless it ends up in court like Burford, and then we get heavily smacked by the judge for questioning the FCA. So it is definitely something we watch for, and we try to bring to the regulatory authorities' attention when we see it. If any investor, shareholder, member sees activity that they don't like, please do bring it into us. We will take it forward. We will review it first, but we'll take it forward if we deem it necessary.
Just in the Q&A, Roger Lawson has also put his telephone number in if anyone wants to talk about the RBOS situation. So we'll get that number circulated so people can.
Give us your details before we give you this telephone number. This is the director who was involved in Scotland.
Okay. So I think what we will do is we'll pick up any other questions. I think there's only another couple, but we'll pick those up separately and respond in writing with respect to those. So, but I do recognise we've got a number of resolutions that we need to get through. So, and just before we start the voting, it's important that I point out it's one vote per member. If you voted in advance of the AGM and are in attendance today, either online or in person, then we ask that you vote again, as we will discount your original vote. So to ensure that there's only one vote per member. So I will read out each resolution and ask that those attending online vote using the polls on screen, and those attending in person vote with the show of hands at the appropriate time. And then after each resolution, we'll count up those votes and I will let you know what that situation is. So if I can start with resolution 1, and that's to receive the report and accounts of the Board of Directors for the year ended 31st of December 2023. Okay, so can we have 4? Against and abstain. One person to abstain. Okay. And so I'll just leave them for a minute to be counting those up. I can hear the brain ticking now. Okay. Right. So. So, is that 53? Yeah, 53 for, 4 against, and 2 abstentions. So, therefore, we can confirm the report and accounts are confirmed for the year ended 31st of December 2023. On resolution 2, I'm going to pass to Mike because it's talking about me as a member. So I'll just pass across to Mike.
Okay, resolution 2. Resolution 2 is to re-elect as a member of the board Mrs. Heather Virginia Benjamin, who was appointed on the 20th of May 2024. All those in favour, please raise your hands. And keep them up for a minute. All those against? And any abstentions? Okay. Just waiting for the numbers.
I don't want to see.
Okay. Thanks, Amanda. For, we have 56, against 0, and 2 abstentions. So I declare that Heather Virginia Benjamin has been re-elected as a member of the board.
So resolution 3 is to re-elect as a member of the board Bazina Miglowska, who was appointed on the 11th of July 2024. Those for, can you please put your hands up? Those against? And abstentions? By the time we get to resolution 13, we'll really have got this sorted. Okay. So 443, against 0, abstentions 6. And we'll put all of these in the minutes. So the next one is to re-elect as a member of the board, Ms. Gemma Janet Elspeth Mary Arnold. Gosh, you've got a number of names, haven't you? Who was appointed on the 6th of February 2023. Those for? Those against? And abstentions? Thank you. So we have 43 for, none against, 4 abstentions. The next one is to re-elect as a member of the board, Mr. Marcus Arthur Bentley, appointed 4th of May 2011. For? Against? And abstentions? I knew your hand was coming up. But thank you. That's 46 for, 1 against, and 2 abstentions. Resolution 6 to re-elect as a member of the board, Mr. Michael Dennis, appointed 30th of April 2014. For? Against? Abstentions? Thank you. 47 for, 1 against, 2 abstentions. Resolution 7, to re-elect as a member of the board, Mr. Elliot Rees-Hughes, appointed 19th of February 2024. For? Against? And abstentions? Okay. Thank you. 45 for, none against, 7 abstentions. To re-elect as a member of the board, Mr. Mark Alistair Northway, appointed 19th of April 2016. For? Against? And abstentions? Okay. So the result of that is 44 for, 1 against, 7 abstentions. To re-elect as a member of the board, Mr. Ram Sakdev, 19th of February 2024. For? Against? And abstentions? 3. I'm on resolution 10 next. Thank you. 44 for, none against, 7 abstentions. To re-elect as a member of the board, Mr. David Stredder, appointed 6th of Feb 2011. For? Against? Abstentions? We're nearly there. That cup of tea is waiting. 46 for, 1 against, 3 abstentions. Number 11, to re-elect as a member of the board, Mr. Vijay Kumar Tahani, 16th of Feb 2024. For? Against? And abstentions? And then resolution 12, the result of that was 46 for, 0 against, 7 abstentions. To re-elect as a member of the board, Mr. Amit Vidara, appointed 10th of April 2019. For? Against? And abstentions? 3 abstentions. And then the final resolution, once I've shared what that is 45 for, 1 against, 4 abstentions, is to approve the remuneration of the directors for 2023 and the proposed remuneration for 2024. For? Against? And abstentions? Nobody told me about any remuneration. I do this for love. So, thank you very much. So 44, 1 against, 11 abstentions. So is there any other business any other board member or member would like to raise? There's nothing online either, is there? Okay. So on behalf of the board and the team at ShareSoc, I really would like to thank you for all attending the AGM today and for all your support as members of the society. If anyone wants to help us in as part of volunteering, we would absolutely love to have you on board. But we invite those of you who are in person to join us for some refreshments. And thank you very much for your cooperation today.